Backstage.
Welcome, Backstage Vancouver. I'm Damien Gendron. Brian Oberquell is here today. Pyro extraordinaire. Great reputation in town. I've heard of him for years and years and years. Gosh, you've done all sorts of different things. Tell us a little bit. Give us a quick bio here. How many years have you been doing this?
Well, I've basically been blowing stuff up since high school, so it's, you can tell from the gray. It's been a while. I moved up to Canada from Washington State when I got married in 1980. I got citizenship, I'm legal, and started getting involved with the local pyrotechnic industry, fireworks, doing the basic Canada Day shows, so on and so forth. I've worked on rock concerts, rap concerts. I've done 50 Cent, I've done Rammstein, I've done Skrillex. I've been working on Celebration of Light, or when it was still Symphony of Fire. This year will actually be my 14th year working on this.
Congratulations.
And the fact that I can still count to 10 means I'm doing something right, yes. Obviously.
And you still have your eyebrows.
Yep, the eyebrows. It's all real. As I've told students who are taking the licensing course, when I introduce myself, I say, and as you can see by my body type, I've not had to run away from anything going horribly wrong.
Yes, right.
It's always a good icebreaker. So I've done some television and movie work. Mainly on that side with the special effects, not as much with the pyro. So my pyro experience is mostly doing public displays, private displays. Worked on both the opening and closing ceremonies for the Vancouver Olympics, which was...
I remember that.
It's one of those things that you swear at the time you will never do again.
Yeah.
But I usually swear right after Celebration of Light that I will never do that again. And they ask me the next year, and I say, okay, I'm there.
Yeah.
So that all works
There must
out.
be something wrong in there, I think, yeah.
You get addicted to it. Because,
yeah.
It's
inspiring, isn't it?
It is. Well, a lot of us tend to refer to the black perfume, as we call it, the smell of the gunpowder.
Oh yeah, I can relate. We've done a lot of pyro over the years in the film industry, and we're always wanting that bigger gig and that bigger boom, and trying to probably do more of what you're doing rather than being stuck in a studio. But it's neat.
Yeah,
it's not something you run into every day.
I do tend to personally, my personal preference is for live events, like a live show, live theater, live actors. Well, sorry, I shouldn't say live actors. That implies film is dead actors. But what I mean is where you have one shot, you have one take to do it. You don't get a retake.
Right.
Because I find that's a quite heady combination of excitement and fear and terror and nerves. And then when it finally happens, the elation of doing it, and you pulled it off,
well,
and
that connection to the audience is immediate.
Yep.
It's not something that's filmed later on or that's aired later on. You get it right there. You can tell what you've done, right?
And then you're in trouble when you've worked, and this has happened for me on theater, when you've worked with directors a few times, and they know you, they know what you can do, they know sort of how you think, and so a director will come up and say, I want to change the blocking on this, so when the chauffeur gets dragged into the closet by the masked figure, I want him to have his throat cut. Mm-hmm. And you're dealing with, you've got your audience, your front rows maybe 10, 15 feet away. It's like, oh goody, now I get to do that one. So, some of the directors I work with, I mean, I love working with them because they challenge me, but sometimes I wish they'd give me a little more warning that they're going to do that instead of, a couple of weeks before opening and you have to figure out what the hell you're doing.
I don't know how many times we've been in a situation where we're trying to be preemptive. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Every time we've done this gag, they've wanted this. Let's just bring it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, almost 8 times out of 10, they end up, yep, there it is. And do you have that? Yeah, we've got it right here. And if you don't bring it, what do you do? A
cartoon that a visual effects artist He did cartooning as a form of stress relief from the job. Got to the point where he was making calendars to give to their clients at the studios, and then for a few years was actually selling the calendars retail. So I was buying them every year.
Yeah.
And one of the best cartoons was the most expensive words in film production. And they have a director saying, "I'm not sure exactly what I want. Just keep showing me things. I'll know it when I see it."
Very expensive. Mm-hmm. My goodness. So, Brian, why pyro? What possessed you to get involved in this?
I blame my corrupted youth, my childhood. I started getting involved in pyro out of chemistry classes in high school, and also model rocketry. Now, fortunately, they've changed the laws in Washington State, because back then you had to have a pyro license to buy the rocket engine motors for little balsa wood model rockets that you make. So you had to have this pyro license. To get the pyro license, you took the weekend course on how to build and fly model rockets, which, I mean, any kid is going to want to do anyway. Mm-hmm. Then you paid, I think it was like $5 or $10, and get somebody to vouch for you. And of course, it was one of my high school chem buddies. And you get this lovely little piece of paper that says pyrotechnician license, first class. And it says you were allowed to use anything up to and including dynamite for film, theater, TV.
Right.
Well, obviously, I shouldn't say obviously. I never went that far, and I say that truthfully. It's not like the statute of limitations would be in effect on anything I did back then. But
we are on the air here.
Yes, but remember, this was like back in high school. I graduated in '77. Do the math.
So we're good.
If nobody was killed, I'm totally good. But I started doing just very simple flash pots for stage shows, ballets, fashion shows.
From a young age, you got into mixing your own.
Yeah.
Getting whatever supplies were available and making do with that. And what really made you love it, though? Was it the noise, the flame, obviously there's a bit of science in there.
Yeah. It was more the flame, not so much the noise.
Yeah.
Also, where I was growing up in Washington State, my parents lived not far away from one of the Indian reservations, native reservations, where they, of course, carried all of the fireworks that were illegal in Washington State.
Right.
So the trick was, sort of pulling your old Dukes of Hazzard thing, is bypass the police, get in there, buy the stuff that would, like blow your hand off if you were stupid,
right.
And then get back home and blow it off. And where my parents lived was, overlooking the water, so I could do lots of stuff out there without having to worry about, anybody, getting underneath it or doing things like that. So it was a lot of it was the effects, the color, shooting things up into the sky, or in the case of a flash pot, you just you get a nice big flash or sparks or color or flame.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering why it's so hard in Vancouver.
One advantage that we have in Canada versus the U.S. is pyrotechnicians are federally regulated.
Okay.
You have one standard of training. Everything is certified, documented through Ottawa, with the sub-offices in Vancouver and such. Mm-hmm. Down in the U.S., every state has their own regulations. They usually start using the PGI, Pyrotechnics Guild International, as their start, and then they use the NFPA, National Fire Prevention Association, codes, because they have codes for display and theatrical. Right. But the states can also sort of tweak them to their own thing. Since I do have dual U.S.-Canadian citizenship, I'm actually in the process of talking to the Washington State Fire Marshal to see about, can I use my Canadian credentials down there?
Right.
And they said, I can do that. I still have to take the test. So if I didn't have that, I'd have to go down there and work a few shows, much like the apprenticeship system that we have up here. But there's that. So we at least up here have the advantage on the federal level in terms of licensing. Where a lot of the hassles come in is at the individual city and municipality level. Some municipalities will allow you to purchase consumer fireworks for Halloween, but you can't set them off in the city limits. Others will allow you to set them off in the city limits, but they don't sell them within the city limits. And some are totally blanked off. One thing that a number of municipalities are doing that I honestly don't agree with, I understand the reasoning, is they're saying that if you want to do a family fireworks display, and BC is, I believe, the only province that really goes all out on Halloween for fireworks. I do a family product show for a local school in Burnaby every year. Been doing that for about last 7 years or so. But a lot of the municipalities are starting to say you need to have the federal pyro license for family product, which is sort of like saying we'll allow you to fly this Piper Cub, but you have to be rated on a 747 multi-jet engine. It's, yes, you will be safe, you will know the safety practices, but it's a bit overkill. What I'd like to see happen, and I don't even think this necessarily has to happen on a federal level. I think it could be done on a provincial, even down to cities, depend, is set up an actual training program for family fireworks. And it could easily be like the current training for fireworks on the federal level is you take the course, you have to apprentice a certain number of shows, a certain number of years, then you get your basic designation. There are additional designations that allow you to do more and bigger things, and then you have to work a certain number of those shows. You have to get letters of reference from people saying, yeah, I trust this guy's not going to kill anybody or maim the family dog, and then you get approved for that type of thing. You wouldn't need to go that far for a family product, but it's basically walk everybody through the way that we used to do it for display fireworks, where you have your lecture, you have your exam, you walk through that, and then we would actually take people out and put some safety gear on them, obviously, and we'd actually shoot shells. I would say this is how you load a shell in a mortar. We do some hand firing, which you don't generally do these days.
Here's some sand. Have some sand.
Yeah, well, we'd even just have racks out in the middle of the field. Generally, depending on the size of the field, you're not shooting anything larger than a 3-inch shell because you don't have the room out in the park. But, you'd get the people suited up, you'd walk them out with a flare, you'd light it, you'd walk away, the shell would go off, they'd go, ooh, pretty, okay, then next person come up, and we would walk them through the whole process.
What about pyro clubs? Wouldn't that be fun?
There is the Canadian Pyrotechnic Association, which is working on trying to develop a standard for hobby pyro. The problem with that is, and I don't mean this as a problem is they're doing it wrong, I just mean, I should say the challenge for doing that is it's getting everybody to agree on this.